What if I tell you that the money you are desperately searching for, the money you think only comes after years of struggle, endless late nights, and backbreaking effort, is actually waiting for you in a place you may have overlooked, your assumptions? Because hidden beneath every action you take is the belief that either money is hard to earn or that it flows freely to those who dare to assume it already belongs to them. And once you recognize this secret, you begin to understand that the law of assumption is not a mystical idea reserved for dreamers, but a practical doorway into attracting unexpected wealth without straining for it. Imagine for a moment that every financial struggle you have faced was not a result of the economy, your boss, or your lack of connections, but rather a reflection of the inner dialogue you hold about money. Because if your inner words constantly whisper that money is scarce, then your reality has no choice but to echo that scarcity back to you. The beauty of the law of assumption is that it does not ask you to work harder or longer. It asks you to feel differently, to see differently, to assume that abundance is already yours before it shows up. And when you do this sincerely, you unlock a reality where money arrives in ways you cannot logically predict. Perhaps you have noticed how some people, without advanced degrees or long hours, seem to fall into opportunities, inheritances, or surprise checks. And while others label it as luck, the truth is often simpler. They assumed they were the kind of people to whom money naturally comes. This shift is so subtle that most people dismiss it, yet it is the foundation of wealth creation in its most effortless form. Because the moment you believe something is hard, it becomes hard. But when you assume something is easy, the universe conspires to prove you right. You do not need to know how the money will come. In fact, demanding to know how is the very thing that blocks the flow. For unexpected money by its very nature bypasses logic and sneaks into your life when you least expect it. You may already recall moments where you found money on the ground, received a gift card, or had someone treat you unexpectedly. And while you brushed it off as coincidence, those were glimpses of what happens when assumption overrides effort. What I am telling you is that this can move beyond small surprises into significant financial breakthroughs. And the bridge between where you are now and where you desire to be lies in the assumptions you rehearse daily in your mind. Money is not running from you. It is responding to the story you continue to tell about yourself. So if you declare that you are always broke, life will fulfill it. But if you assume you are always supported by money, then reality bends to match that assumption. This is why Neville Goddard said that assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact, because your outer world cannot resist the inner world you have accepted as real. The reason most people never experience this is not because it doesn't work, but because they quit too soon. They assume abundance for a day or two, then return to assuming lack, and reality simply mirrors their inconsistency. But if you persist, if you continue to assume that you are already financially free, you will notice small cracks appearing in your old reality, where new streams of money begin to flow. These cracks widen with your persistence until you suddenly find yourself living in a reality where the extraordinary feels ordinary, and what was once unexpected becomes the new normal. The real secret here is that assumption requires no permission, no approval, and no effort beyond your willingness to feel differently and to hold to it. Even when appearances contradict you, you must learn to stop worshiping the evidence of lack and start revering the unseen abundance that is forming behind the curtain of your current circumstances. For the unseen always gives birth to the seen. And by the time money appears, it is only the echo of an assumption you have already embodied. So as we begin this journey together, understand that you are not here to learn how to chase money, but to allow it to chase you. And it begins the moment you decide to assume, not tomorrow, not next week, but now. And as you begin to grasp this, you may realize that the shift from struggle to ease is not about learning new skills or finding some hidden secret in the marketplace, but about reprogramming the story you tell yourself each day. Because the law of assumption responds not to your actions alone, but to the state of being from which those actions are taken. And when your state is rooted in lack, even the hardest work yields little reward. But when it is grounded in abundance, the simplest step can lead to overflowing opportunities. Think for a moment about how often you have repeated the words, "I can't afford it," or "I never have enough," and recognize that each repetition is not just a complaint, but a powerful assumption that instructs reality to keep giving you more lack, while those who assume, "I always have more than enough," find doors opening for them without effort. This is why some people appear to live in constant financial strain, while others, sometimes with less effort or education, seem to glide into prosperity. They are both living out their assumptions as though they were unbreakable laws. So, if you truly want to attract unexpected money, you must begin by catching the inner conversations that anchor you in scarcity and deliberately replacing them with conversations of wealth, because your mind is not an empty vessel, but a broadcasting tower, and what you broadcast is inevitably returned to you. It may feel unnatural at first to assume abundance when the evidence around you screams of debt or struggle. Yet this is the precise moment when assumption is most powerful. For to hold the inner vision in the face of contradiction is to plant the seed that will blossom into reality. Think of it like changing the script of a movie. If you keep rehearsing the old lines of, "I never have enough," the same tragic story will play out. But if you insist on the new script of, "Money always finds its way to me," then the film of your life cannot resist rewriting itself. The truth is that unexpected money does not arrive because of luck or coincidence, but because you aligned with a new version of yourself who always receives. And once that version is assumed, life must bring it to you in the most natural ways. You do not need to figure out whether it will come through a gift, a refund, a forgotten account, or a new opportunity. Your only role is to persist in assuming that it already belongs to you. This is the point where people often stumble, because the outer world may not shift immediately, and impatience tempts them back into old assumptions. But if you can persist through that gap between assumption and manifestation, you will witness the bridge of incidents carrying you to the reality you have claimed. Every assumption carries within it the power to harden into fact, and just as an actor becomes the role he plays when he rehearses it long enough, you will become the wealthy version of yourself when you rehearse wealth in your mind with unwavering conviction. Think about the freedom of knowing that your financial life is not dictated by the economy or by the limited logic of effort, but by the limitless creativity of assumption, and how liberating it is to know you can rewrite your story right now. This is why it is said that imagination is the only reality, for what you dare to assume and feel as real must eventually take shape, and money, like everything else, is only matter reshaped by mind. If you decide from this moment onward that you are the person to whom money flows with ease, then you will find yourself surprised again and again by how life bends to match that decision, because assumption does not argue. It simply delivers. So as we move deeper, remember that your task is not to struggle or to strive, but to hold your assumption as though it were already the truth, and watch as the world bends quietly to mirror it back to you in ways that will leave you wondering why you ever doubted. Now, as you let this understanding sink deeper, you begin to notice that the law of assumption does not wait for special conditions, perfect timing, or certain rituals, but responds instantly to the state you occupy. And this means that the very moment you assume yourself to be the person who receives unexpected money, you set into motion a chain of unseen events that conspire to bring that assumption into form, even if at first it feels invisible to your senses. Consider for a moment how often you have planted a seed in soil and for days seen no evidence of growth. Yet beneath the surface, the seed was already breaking, expanding, and preparing to push upward, because manifestation operates the same way, and your assumption is that seed. The challenge most people face is that they dig up their seeds too soon by doubting, questioning, and returning to the old state of lack, not realizing that every time they do, they interrupt the process that was already unfolding. But when you hold steady in your assumption, no matter what your bank account currently says, you are like the gardener who waters daily in trust, knowing the sprout must appear, and from this trust emerges the most extraordinary experiences of unexpected financial blessings. And it is in these moments of quiet persistence that the bridges of incidents begin to form. Those strange yet perfectly aligned events that carry you from your current reality into the one you assumed, sometimes through refunds you forgot about, checks arriving in the mail, debts canceled, or opportunities introduced by people you never imagined would help. To the untrained eye, these may appear random, but you will know they are not random at all, because they are the precise outcomes of the inner state you chose to occupy. The key is to stop being seduced by the visible facts of lack, and instead fall in love with the invisible certainty of abundance, because the seen is always the echo of the unseen. And when you respect this truth, you discover that the unseen is far more powerful than appearances. You must train yourself to feel the satisfaction of already having received, because it is that feeling that impresses the subconscious mind and commands it to arrange reality accordingly. Many dismiss this because they want immediate proof before they dare to assume. But assumption does not work backward from proof. It generates proof. The wealthy man is not wealthy because he works harder than everyone else, but because he assumes himself wealthy and his reality cannot resist aligning to that assumption. This is why you see individuals rise from obscurity, without background or qualifications, into unimaginable wealth, because they dared to live in the end, long before the evidence showed itself. If you think of life as a mirror, you will understand that you cannot wait for the reflection to smile before you smile. You must smile first, and then the reflection responds, just as you must assume wealth before wealth appears. So as you move forward, do not be disturbed if the outer facts still whisper lack, for they are only old assumptions echoing back. And once you persist in the new state, the echoes fade, and the new song of abundance begins to play. Unexpected money is not meant to be a rare miracle, but a natural consequence of the assumption that you are supported by life. And once you embrace this, you will notice small flows turning into rivers of supply. Your job is not to figure out how the river bends, but to trust that it flows. Because trust is the currency that makes assumption unshakable. So with each day you choose to persist, you are writing a new destiny, one in which money does not trickle in by effort, but arrives as naturally as breath. And once you live this truth, you will wonder how you ever accepted struggle as the only path. And once you realize this, you begin to see that the real power is not in waiting for circumstances to change, but in deliberately choosing your state first, because the law of assumption never fails to reflect the state you persist in. And this is why those who constantly assume lack find their lives filled with shortage, while those who assume abundance keep encountering opportunities, gifts, and unexpected money with little effort. Imagine for a moment two people walking side by side, both with the same jobs and the same paychecks, but one constantly assumes that bills will drain every cent, while the other assumes that money always multiplies and flows back to them. And watch how their lives diverge, as the first remains trapped in cycles of lack, while the second attracts sudden raises, surprise bonuses, and even gifts from unlikely sources. The only difference between them is the story they assume is true. And because reality has no choice but to mirror what is assumed, the outcomes appear vastly different, even though the effort expended is nearly the same. This is why assumption is more powerful than action, because your actions will always conform to the state you occupy, meaning a person acting from lack will only create more lack, while one acting from abundance automatically generates more wealth. To some, this may feel unfair or even unbelievable, but once you experiment with it sincerely, you will see it unfold with precision, and you will discover that unexpected money is not luck but law. This is where persistence becomes vital, because fleeting assumptions will produce fleeting results, but the assumptions you hold consistently become hardened facts. And this is the reason Neville insisted on persistence no matter what appears before you. If you say to yourself each morning, "I am the person who money finds easily," and you repeat it until it feels natural, you will notice subtle shifts in the way life treats you, and those subtle shifts eventually build into undeniable manifestations. The truth is, you cannot outwork an assumption, for your state is the soil, and your actions are only the seeds. And if the soil is poisoned with lack, no seed will bear fruit. But if the soil is rich with abundance, even the smallest seed will grow into something extraordinary. This is why wealthy people often appear to attract opportunities without effort, because they live in an assumption of wealth that colors everything they touch, while those who assume struggle find that no matter how hard they try, something always seems to block their progress. But you are not doomed to repeat the cycle you once assumed. For the moment you decide to occupy a new state, the entire structure of your reality begins to bend in your favor, even if it takes time for the outer facts to catch up. This bending may begin with little signs: finding forgotten money in an old wallet, receiving a refund you didn't expect, or being given something you once thought you'd have to buy. And though these seem small, they are the first whispers of a new assumption taking form. Do not dismiss them as coincidence, for to do so is to weaken your assumption. Instead, celebrate them as evidence that the law is at work and that larger flows are already on their way. Just as a small crack in the dam foretells the rushing of water, these small signs are the cracks through which abundance is beginning to flood your life. And the more you assume it, the wider the cracks become until the full stream bursts forth. Your only task is to persist with calm certainty, to hold the end as if it were already here, and to let the law do what it has always done: reflect your state into form. For when you understand this, you are no longer a victim of chance or circumstance, but the deliberate author of your financial reality. And this is the most liberating truth you will ever discover. And as these truths begin to settle within you, you may notice that the greatest obstacle to receiving unexpected money is not the absence of opportunities, but the persistence of doubt. Because doubt is nothing more than an assumption that works in reverse, quietly telling your subconscious mind to block the very flow you are seeking. And when you indulge it repeatedly, it becomes just as real as the assumption of wealth. Many people make the mistake of thinking that doubt is harmless, a natural reaction to current circumstances. But in reality, doubt is a decision. And every time you decide to entertain it, you strengthen the old state of lack and push your desired state further away. Yet the opposite is equally true, because each time you deliberately choose to assume that money flows to you easily, even in the face of contradiction, you strengthen the state of abundance until it becomes the only story your subconscious can accept. And once it accepts it, life bends to fulfill it without resistance. This is why Neville emphasized the power of persistence. For persistence is not about forcing something into existence, but about training your mind to hold to the end until it becomes so natural that it feels like the only possible outcome. Think about the times in your life when you wanted something so strongly that you refused to let go of the idea, and eventually, through a series of coincidences, opportunities, or surprising turns, it became reality. This is the exact same mechanism, only now you are applying it consciously to attract money. Doubt may still knock at your door, whispering that you are foolish for assuming wealth in the face of debt, but you must learn to recognize it for what it is: a shadow of your old self, not a prophecy of your future. The old self thrived on struggle, on overwork, on believing money was scarce, and it will fight to keep its place. But the new self you are stepping into no longer agrees with those lies. And every time you return to the feeling of abundance, you weaken the grip of the old self until it dissolves completely, leaving only the truth that money flows to you with ease. You may even notice that when doubt arises and you persist anyway, the manifestations that follow are even more remarkable, almost as if life rewards your refusal to bow to fear. These rewards often come in the form of what we call unexpected money, those checks, gifts, refunds, or bonuses that arrive without effort, as if life itself is applauding your persistence. And the beauty of it is that once you experience this even once, you will no longer need me or anyone else to convince you of its reality, because the evidence will be undeniable, etched into your own life. You will look back and wonder how many years you spent fighting with doubt, when all along you could have chosen assumption instead, and realized that the struggle was never with money, but with your own thoughts. So let doubt come if it must, but never let it stay. For your assumption of wealth is stronger, more real, and far more enduring than any fleeting shadow of disbelief. And when you master this, you will discover that unexpected money does not just arrive occasionally, it becomes a rhythm, a natural flow, a pattern of life that seems to happen effortlessly, because you have finally chosen to trust the law of assumption more than you trust appearances. And once you have overcome the grip of doubt, you begin to see that the law of assumption gives you tools more powerful than any financial strategy, because you no longer rely on external conditions or people to change before you feel secure. Instead, you anchor yourself in the inner certainty that money already belongs to you. And this inner certainty reshapes everything around you. Neville often spoke about the power of revision, the practice of rewriting past events in your imagination until they conform to the story you choose to believe. And when applied to money, this becomes one of the most transformative techniques available. Think back to moments where you may have lost money, been denied a raise, or felt the sting of financial failure, and understand that those memories continue to influence your assumptions today, because your subconscious accepts them as permanent truths unless you deliberately revise them. But if you return to those scenes in imagination and rewrite them, seeing yourself receiving the money, being praised instead of rejected, feeling abundant instead of lacking, you begin to dissolve the power of the old story and replace it with one that supports your wealth. And the remarkable thing about revision is that it does not only heal the past, but also rewrites the trajectory of your future, so that unexpected money begins to flow in ways that align with your new assumptions rather than your old disappointments. You may find that debts are forgiven, opportunities reappear, or people who once denied you suddenly approach you with offers, as if the entire fabric of your financial story has been woven anew. This is because the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what actually happened and what you vividly assume to have happened. It only responds to the reality you impress upon it now, and reality must then follow the new blueprint. Revision, then, is not wishful thinking, but a direct act of creation, and once you master it, you will never again be haunted by the shadows of financial mistakes. You will instead carry within you a library of victories, each one strengthening your assumption that money is your constant companion. This is the path to freedom, because instead of dragging the weight of past lack into every future moment, you step into each day as someone who has always been supported by money, and reality cannot resist confirming it. So when unexpected money arrives, through a refund, a forgotten account, or a sudden gift, you will recognize it not as random chance, but as the echo of a story you have already rewritten. And the more you revise, the more effortless it becomes to assume abundance in the present, because you have cleared the soil of weeds and allowed only the seeds of wealth to take root. With this understanding, you are no longer bound by what has been, for the past bends as easily as the future when touched by assumption, and you now stand in the freedom to create both anew. And now that you understand how revision rewrites the past and dissolves the weight of old failures, you can deepen this journey by stepping into one of Neville's most powerful techniques, the state akin to sleep, often called SATS, because it is in this drowsy, in-between place where your conscious resistance fades and your subconscious accepts impressions most easily. And it is here that you can plant the seeds of unexpected money with extraordinary speed. Imagine lying in bed at night, your body relaxed and heavy, your mind hovering between wakefulness and dreams, and instead of replaying worries about bills or debts, you choose to imagine the scene that would follow the wish fulfilled, such as holding a check, smiling at your bank balance, or hearing someone congratulate you on receiving money. And you do this not as a distant fantasy, but as if it is happening right now. The trick is not to force the image, but to sink into the feeling it produces, because the subconscious responds not to words alone, but to the deep emotional conviction that you are already living in your desired reality. And when you drift off to sleep with this feeling, your subconscious takes it as fact and works tirelessly to reflect it in your waking life, often through channels you could never have predicted. Many people report waking up to messages about unexpected payments, sudden refunds, or even opportunities that seem to appear from nowhere, and they call it coincidence. But once you practice SATS with consistency, you will see that it is the precise law of assumption unfolding with mathematical certainty. The beauty of this practice is that it requires no struggle, no endless effort, only the willingness to surrender to the scene until it feels real. And the more real it feels to you, in imagination, the faster it hardens into fact. You may find yourself smiling for no reason during the day because the feeling of already being wealthy lingers, and that very vibration begins to magnetize the money you once thought was far away. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes, until SATS is no longer a technique but a natural part of how you end each day. A quiet ritual that programs your subconscious for abundance while you rest. Think about how much time you have wasted falling asleep to worry, to stress, to fear of lack, and realize that you can replace those wasted hours with the most powerful manifestation practice in existence, one that literally reshapes your financial life while you dream. The key is persistence, because the subconscious may resist at first, clinging to the old story of lack, but if you remain faithful, you will see evidence begin to spill into your reality in ways that make you laugh at how simple the law truly is. And once you see it happen once, you will no longer wonder if it works. You will know, and that knowing will make you unstoppable because you will have touched the secret that turns imagination into money and assumption into wealth. And as you grow more familiar with the practice of SATS, you begin to understand that the true power of assuming unexpected money lies not only in the visualization itself, but in the subtle shift of your daily mindset, because each moment you carry the feeling of abundance. Whether you are at work, at home, or in conversation with others, you are impressing your subconscious with the reality you want to experience. And it begins orchestrating events to match that inner conviction. Consider how often people complain about being broke or stressed, and realize that those repeated statements are like instructions to the universe, continuously recreating the lack they claim to despise, while simply maintaining the inner state of already having money changes the pattern of reality without a single outward action. You may notice that as you persist, your attention begins to shift effortlessly toward opportunities you previously overlooked, because your new state filters reality differently, drawing your awareness to chances, gifts, or avenues of income that were always present but invisible to your old mindset. And in this way, unexpected money does not need to be sought. It comes to you naturally, because the law of assumption has aligned your internal world with the external, and external circumstances are compelled to follow. This is why many people who practice these principles report money arriving from people they have never met, jobs they never applied for, or situations that seem improbable. Yet every single manifestation is a direct reflection of the state they maintain internally. You begin to realize that the law of assumption is far more intelligent than the logical mind, orchestrating intricate sequences of events that work together to fulfill your desires while keeping the process invisible until the result appears. And the more you trust this unseen orchestration, the less you worry about timing, how, or through whom the money will arrive, because you have surrendered to the assumption and allowed life to respond naturally. You may even notice your friends or colleagues behaving differently around you, offering assistance, advice, or financial opportunities without prompting, because your inner state radiates confidence, expectation, and openness, which others unconsciously mirror. And as you consistently carry this vibration, the universe begins to reward your persistence, and the once elusive, unexpected money becomes a familiar rhythm, a recurring pattern of alignment that reinforces the assumption. Yet many still stumble by chasing evidence, constantly checking their bank balance or calculating what should happen next. And when they do this, they weaken the impression they are trying to make upon their subconscious, which is why discipline in assumption is as important as the feeling itself. The goal is to let the outer world fade into irrelevance, maintaining the inner state as though the money has already arrived, and through this unwavering focus, the universe cannot help but comply. You will learn that money can appear in ways that defy logic, that your mind could never have planned, and yet each occurrence is perfectly consistent with the assumption you hold. This is where true freedom emerges, because you no longer labor under the tyranny of external circumstances. You are the master of the unseen, guiding reality with deliberate intent. And when you witness these miracles unfolding naturally, You begin to embody the understanding that money is a reflection of your inner state, and by mastering your state, you master the flow of abundance itself. And as you continue this practice, you begin to notice that the real magic of unexpected money is not in the appearance of physical currency alone, but in the way your entire life begins to realign with abundance. Because once your state changes, every interaction, every decision, and every thought is filtered through the lens of wealth. And suddenly opportunities that once seemed random or unavailable now present themselves effortlessly. You may find that a conversation with a friend sparks an idea that leads to financial gain, or that a casual suggestion from a stranger becomes a source of unexpected income. And in each instance, you see the fingerprints of your inner assumptions manifesting outwardly. The subtlety of this law is such that the universe conspires in ways you could never have orchestrated, yet everything appears perfectly synchronized, as though life itself is conspiring in your favor, responding to the unwavering conviction you maintain within. And the more you observe this, the more you realize that money is simply a reflection of alignment, a mirror showing you how closely your inner world matches the reality you desire. You begin to understand that working harder, sacrificing more, or chasing opportunities with desperation is unnecessary, because the law of assumption bypasses struggle entirely when you assume from the end, feeling the reality you want as already accomplished. Every act of assuming abundance, whether during sats, daily reflections, or simple moments of gratitude, reinforces this alignment, strengthening the pathways through which unexpected money travels. You start to notice synchronicities everywhere, small coincidences that hint at the unfolding of a larger plan, and each one encourages you to maintain your state with even greater conviction. And as your confidence grows, you naturally attract people, ideas, and circumstances that complement the abundance you assume, creating a network of support and opportunity that was previously invisible. This is why persistence and consistency in assumption are critical. For the more time you spend in the state of already having, the stronger the magnetic pull of wealth becomes, and the universe responds accordingly. You may recall times when opportunities seemed scarce or doors closed repeatedly, and now you understand that these were simply reflections of your old assumptions, not indicators of your potential. And by shifting the story internally, the outer world transforms to match. And as the weeks and months pass, you witness patterns of unexpected money becoming regular, predictable, and reliable, reinforcing the principle that your inner state dictates outer circumstances. This realization allows you to operate from a place of ease rather than anxiety, knowing that the unseen is always working in your favor, and that your consistent assumptions are the script being enacted in reality. You begin to live in a state where abundance is your default, not your hope, and the law of assumption becomes the engine driving every financial breakthrough, every opportunity, and every miracle that appears in your life. In this way, you see clearly that the path to wealth is not through struggle or effort, but through the deliberate choice to embody the state of already having, trusting the universe to deliver the evidence in perfect timing. And as this understanding deepens, you begin to realize that attracting unexpected money is not simply about wishing or imagining, but about fully embodying the version of yourself who already possesses it. Because the subconscious does not respond to concepts or words. It responds to the feeling of reality. And the moment you live as though wealth is your natural state, the outer world is compelled to reflect it. You will notice a shift in your behavior, your choices, and even the way people perceive you. Because when you carry the energy of abundance, you naturally radiate confidence, decisiveness, and openness, all of which magnetize opportunities that were previously invisible. And the beauty of this is that it is effortless, not forced, because the law of assumption works through alignment, not struggle. And when your internal state matches the life you desire, manifestation becomes an inevitable consequence rather than a distant goal. You may begin to see money arriving in ways you could never have predicted, a forgotten payment returned, an unexpected bonus, a generous gift, or an opportunity to provide value that brings immediate reward. And each instance strengthens your trust in the process. The more you feel the reality of already having, the more effortless the flow becomes, and soon you no longer chase money or stress about its scarcity, because your inner state has become a magnet for abundance. And as you consistently practice this, the law begins to expand beyond money itself, influencing other areas of your life, creating a sense of freedom, ease, and alignment that permeates everything you do. You begin to see how often you were trapped in old assumptions, constantly confirming lack, and how simple it is to reverse that pattern by assuming the end and feeling it as real, because the universe has no choice but to conform to your assumption. Each time you practice persistence in feeling and imagining, the subconscious mind reorganizes your reality to match, guiding you toward experiences, people, and circumstances that reinforce your assumption. And over time, these small, seemingly random occurrences accumulate into significant changes, so that your financial life transforms in ways that feel both natural and miraculous. Because the law of assumption always rewards those who remain consistent. You learn that it is not about the quantity of money, but about the certainty of abundance. And that certainty allows unexpected streams to flow continuously. And in living this way, you find yourself no longer questioning how or when money will appear, because you know that your inner state has already produced it, and the universe is merely catching up. The freedom of this perspective is profound, for it removes fear, struggle, and desperation from the equation, replacing them with joy, expectancy, and calm assurance. You realize that you are no longer a passive observer of your financial reality, but the deliberate creator, capable of shaping the flow of wealth through assumption alone. And once this principle is fully embraced, every new opportunity, every surprise payment, and every act of financial generosity becomes an affirmation of the reality you have chosen, reinforcing the cycle of abundance and ensuring that unexpected money is no longer occasional, but a consistent rhythm of your life. And as you continue to embody this state of assumed abundance, you start noticing that the ways money arrives are not limited to direct deposits, bonuses, or gifts, but often manifest in subtle, unexpected ways that ripple across your life. Because the law of assumption does not distinguish between big and small, and every aligned circumstance is simply another reflection of the state you maintain internally. You may discover that a forgotten opportunity from months ago suddenly becomes available, that a friend offers assistance in a financial situation you had not even considered, or that circumstances you once believed were obstacles now transform into channels of wealth. All of which underscores the principle that when you assume, reality rearranges itself to match. And this is precisely why it is so important to remain consistent, for even a momentary lapse into doubt or scarcity thinking can interrupt the flow, whereas steady persistence ensures that your inner state remains unshakable and the manifestations continue effortlessly. Imagine how often you have allowed small setbacks or disappointments to convince you that money is hard to obtain, only to realize later that those moments were temporary and did not define your potential. Now you begin to internalize that same principle deliberately. And as your awareness grows, you begin to see opportunities you previously ignored, people you underestimated, and situations you overlooked, all suddenly presenting themselves as avenues of unexpected income. Because your inner state acts as a filter, highlighting only what aligns with the abundance you assume. You may even notice that your decisions become sharper, your intuition stronger, and your confidence unwavering, because the subconscious, now aligned with abundance, naturally guides you toward choices that reinforce your financial state. And as this alignment strengthens, the universe seems to conspire on your behalf, arranging circumstances with precision that surpasses logic, orchestrating synchronicities and coincidences that lead to tangible financial gain. Every time an unexpected payment arrives, a forgotten debt is cleared, or a new opportunity presents itself, it is not mere chance, but a direct reflection of your inner assumptions taking form in the world. And the more frequently these events occur, the more reinforced your belief becomes, creating a feedback loop where expectation, feeling, and manifestation continually strengthen each other. You begin to trust the unseen with absolute certainty, understanding that your imagination, when coupled with unwavering assumption, is the most powerful tool for creating wealth. And as you maintain this state day after day, even during mundane activities or moments of waiting, you imprint the subconscious with a consistent message that you are already financially supported. This internal consistency eliminates resistance, allowing money to flow through channels you may not even recognize until it appears, reminding you that the universe responds with perfect intelligence to your assumed state. You will realize that scarcity was never external, but a reflection of inconsistent thinking, and that abundance is the natural consequence of persistent assumption. And as you continue on this path, the surprises, the gifts, and the opportunities multiply, reinforcing the truth that unexpected money is simply the manifestation of a mind fully aligned with its own assumed reality. And as you become more comfortable in this state of assumed abundance, you start to recognize that the law of assumption is not limited to isolated events or one-time windfalls, but instead works as a consistent force shaping every aspect of your financial life. Because once you establish the inner state of already having, all outer circumstances begin to reflect that reality in ways both subtle and profound. You may notice that conversations with colleagues or clients suddenly yield unexpected opportunities, that casual interactions produce referrals or advice that lead to financial gain, and that situations you once viewed as obstacles now serve as stepping stones to new streams of income. This is because the universe always mirrors your inner convictions, and the more firmly you assume abundance, the more intricate and harmonious the manifestations become, often surpassing what you could have imagined consciously. And as you persist in maintaining this state, you develop an almost effortless ability to identify moments where money can flow, recognizing that the smallest decision, when aligned with your assumed reality, can trigger events that produce surprising financial results. You may begin to notice patterns emerging in your life, sequences of incidents that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidence, and in each case, you will understand that these are the echoes of your persistent assumptions finally expressing themselves in the physical world. This awareness encourages you to maintain your focus on the feeling of having, rather than the evidence of lack, because the inner conviction is what instructs reality, not the current circumstances you see around you. And as your subconscious becomes saturated with this feeling, it begins to reorganize not only your perception but also your actions, guiding you toward choices, relationships, and opportunities that reinforce the state of wealth and allow unexpected money to flow with increasing frequency. You will notice that this process is cumulative. Each manifestation, no matter how small, strengthens your assumption, builds confidence, and opens new channels through which abundance can arrive. And the more you rely on your inner state rather than external validation, the faster these events unfold, because the universe recognizes the consistency and authority of your assumption. You may even find that money appears in completely unpredictable ways, arriving from sources you would never have planned, yet always perfectly aligned with your needs and desires. This realization transforms the way you approach your financial life, because you no longer chase money, negotiate, or manipulate circumstances. Instead, you embody a state that naturally draws it to you. And as this state becomes habitual, your life begins to feel effortless, as if the universe itself has become a co-creator in your financial success. You will discover that the law of assumption is infinitely more reliable than any strategy or plan, because it works directly from the source of creation, your own consciousness. And when your consciousness is firmly aligned, nothing in the world can resist the flow. And in embracing this, you are no longer a passive participant in your financial story, but the deliberate architect, capable of orchestrating the arrival of unexpected money with precision, grace, and ease. And as you continue to practice the art of assumption, you begin to notice that the most profound transformations occur not when you focus on the money itself, but when you immerse yourself fully in the feeling of already having it. Because the subconscious mind does not respond to logic or reasoning, but to the emotional reality you cultivate. And this emotional reality becomes the blueprint for all unexpected financial manifestations. You may find that simply feeling the relief, gratitude, and excitement of receiving money, even before it physically appears, sets into motion a series of events that align circumstances, people and opportunities perfectly with your assumed state. And the more consistently you inhabit this feeling, the more effortless the manifestations become, as though life itself is conspiring to provide the experiences that match your inner certainty. You will notice that even ordinary days begin to feel extraordinary, because your inner state colors every encounter, every decision, and every opportunity, turning previously invisible possibilities into tangible results. And as you persist, small surprises often become larger ones, gradually escalating into streams of unexpected money that feel as natural as breathing, because the law of assumption honors the frequency of your belief, not the size of the expectation. You may begin to recognize that the outer world is never the cause of your financial situation, but merely a reflection of your inner state. And this awareness allows you to stop struggling against appearances and start working from alignment, where every thought and feeling is intentionally chosen to support abundance. And as this alignment strengthens, you may experience moments of synchronicity that appear miraculous, such as receiving help from unexpected sources, stumbling upon forgotten funds, or finding opportunities you never sought, each one affirming the power of your assumption. The key, as always, is persistence, for temporary glimpses of abundance are not enough. It is the continuous practice of assuming, feeling, and expecting that solidifies the subconscious impression and guarantees a steady flow of unexpected money. You will see how easily circumstances bend in your favor when you stop trying to control the how, and instead maintain the inner reality of already having, because the universe takes care of the logistics once your inner state is firm. And with each successive manifestation, your confidence in this process grows, making doubt and fear increasingly irrelevant, until your life itself becomes a testament to the law of assumption. You may even find that the act of giving, sharing, or creating value amplifies the flow, because abundance is a vibrational state that expands when freely expressed, and the more generous you are in feeling wealth, the more the universe returns it to you multiplied. And in this way, you begin to live not just in moments of manifestation, but in a continuous state of abundance, where unexpected money is not rare or occasional, but an integral part of your life. Each day, you are reminded that your inner world precedes and determines your outer circumstances, and as you embrace this truth fully, you no longer chase money, calculate, or worry. You simply assume, feel, and allow it to flow naturally. And in living this way, you step into the role of deliberate creator, aware that your consciousness alone shapes the reality you experience, and that the law of assumption is the most reliable tool for attracting wealth, freedom, and financial miracles. And as you deepen your practice, you begin to recognize that the law of assumption is not limited to isolated acts of imagination, but thrives in the consistent feeling and expectation that money flows to you naturally, because it is this unshakable inner certainty that the subconscious mind responds to, orchestrating events, opportunities, and coincidences that align perfectly with your assumed reality. You may notice that situations which once seemed hopeless or difficult now appear as clear paths to abundance, because your perception has shifted, and you are attuned to the subtle currents of opportunity that always surround those who assume wealth. And the more you practice this, the more effortless it becomes to maintain the state of already having, even in the face of temporary appearances to the contrary, because your attention is anchored in the reality you desire, rather than the fleeting impressions of lack. You begin to observe that unexpected money often arrives in ways you could never have planned, sometimes through chance encounters, forgotten resources, or unforeseen opportunities, and each manifestation reinforces your confidence in the process, creating a positive feedback loop that strengthens your assumption. And as your inner state stabilizes, you notice a profound change in your decision-making, because you no longer operate from fear or scarcity, but from the certainty of abundance, which naturally guides you toward choices that support your financial growth. You may even find that your interactions with others change, as people respond to the vibration of abundance you radiate, offering assistance, connections, or advice that aligns with your financial goals, further demonstrating the universal responsiveness to your assumed state. And the more you persist, the more the flow of unexpected money becomes predictable, not in timing or form, but in frequency, because the law of assumption does not fail to deliver when consistently impressed upon the subconscious. You begin to see that the outer world is a mirror of your inner state, and that by refining your assumptions, thoughts, and feelings, you refine the entire pattern of your life. Each time you feel gratitude, excitement, or satisfaction, as though you already have the money you desire, you amplify the vibration of wealth, and the universe responds accordingly, delivering experiences that confirm your assumed reality. And as you hold this state throughout your days and nights, it becomes second nature, a habitual alignment that continuously attracts unexpected money with ease. You learn that money, like all manifestations, is simply a reflection of consciousness, and that when your consciousness is firmly aligned with abundance, resistance disappears and flow becomes inevitable. You may notice that even small manifestations, such as receiving a refund, finding forgotten money, or stumbling upon opportunities, reinforce your state, proving that the universe is responsive and consistent. And as you continue to practice, you become increasingly attuned to the subtle ways abundance expresses itself, noticing patterns, synchronicities, and signs that guide you further into prosperity. This understanding frees you from the need to control outcomes, because you trust that your assumption is sufficient to bring about the results, and that the universe, in perfect intelligence, orchestrates the details. You find that money becomes a natural part of your life, arriving in surprising, effortless, and delightful ways, because you have mastered the inner art of assuming and feeling the reality you desire. And your life now vibrates in harmony with abundance itself. And as your mastery of assumption deepens, you begin to notice that the flow of unexpected money is not limited to isolated incidents, but starts to shape your life in a more holistic way, influencing not only your finances, but your confidence, your choices, and even the people you attract, because the state you occupy internally radiates outward, compelling circumstances to align with your vibration of abundance. You may observe that opportunities present themselves when least expected, that resources appear at the perfect moment, and that situations which once felt like obstacles now serve as gateways to new streams of income, all of which is a reflection of the inner reality you maintain consistently. And the more you persist in feeling the reality of already having, the less importance you place on outer appearances, because you understand that reality responds to the state you impress upon the subconscious, not to external conditions or logic. You begin to operate from a place of ease rather than struggle, making decisions with clarity, moving with confidence, and allowing life to present solutions in ways that feel effortless, as if the universe itself is your collaborator. And as you notice these flows, your faith in the law of assumption solidifies, because the evidence is undeniable. Unexpected money arrives repeatedly, reliably, and often in ways that surpass your imagination. You may also see how your energy affects others, as people respond to your confidence and sense of ease, offering help, guidance, or opportunities that further accelerate your financial growth, reinforcing the understanding that abundance is contagious and vibrational. And each time you feel gratitude, satisfaction, or excitement as though your desires are already fulfilled, you impress the subconscious even more deeply, ensuring a steady and continuous flow of wealth into your life. You realize that scarcity is never real. It is simply the reflection of old, outdated assumptions, and by replacing those with deliberate, consistent assumptions of abundance, you rewrite your reality in every way. Even challenges or delays no longer shake you, because you know that they are temporary and merely part of the universe's timing, which is always working in perfect alignment with your inner state. And as you continue to practice persistence, the manifestations grow larger and more frequent, moving from small, unexpected payments to significant opportunities and streams of income that feel like miracles, but are simply the natural result of aligned consciousness. You begin to notice a rhythm in life, a steady unfolding of events that confirms your inner reality, and each confirmation strengthens your certainty, making doubt or fear increasingly irrelevant. And as this certainty grows, the experience of abundance becomes effortless, automatic, and natural, because your subconscious has been fully programmed with the state of already having. You no longer wait, no longer wonder, and no longer struggle. Instead, you live in a continuous state of receiving, trusting, and allowing, knowing that unexpected money is not the exception, but the natural order of your assumed life. And in this way, you move beyond mere manifestation techniques into the art of living fully aligned, where every thought, feeling, and action reinforces the continuous flow of abundance and financial miracles into your life. And as you live more consistently in this state of assumed abundance, you begin to notice that your entire perception of life changes. Because when your inner world is aligned with wealth, challenges no longer appear as threats, but as opportunities for growth. And every situation begins to reveal a hidden path toward unexpected money that you might have overlooked before. You may find that people who once seemed indifferent or unhelpful now offer guidance, introductions, or assistance that accelerates your financial journey, demonstrating that the universe organizes circumstances in perfect harmony with your inner state. And the more you persist in feeling as if your desires are already fulfilled, the more natural it becomes to trust the process, letting go of the need to control outcomes, because you know that your assumptions are shaping reality even while you sleep, work, or engage in ordinary activities. You start noticing patterns emerging in ways that feel almost orchestrated, such as a timely message, a chance encounter, or an idea that appears exactly when you need it, all serving as confirmation that your inner state is the primary driver of external circumstances. And as these confirmations multiply, your belief in the law of assumption becomes unshakable, because the evidence is not theoretical. It is your lived experience, repeated, undeniable, and increasingly abundant. You may also realize that your decisions and actions become effortless, because the subconscious, aligned with your assumed reality, begins to guide you automatically toward the choices that produce wealth and align with your desired outcomes. And with each manifestation, your confidence grows, fear diminishes, and the flow of unexpected money becomes more consistent, transforming your life from one of struggle to one of ease, freedom, and joyful anticipation. You begin to live in a rhythm of abundance, where money arrives naturally, effortlessly, and repeatedly, often in surprising ways that reinforce the reality you hold within. And as you maintain this inner state, you recognize that abundance is not about chasing external opportunities, but about consistently embodying the feeling of already having, which then magnetizes all that you need and desire. Every time you encounter doubt, you gently return to the feeling of fulfillment, knowing that persistence is the key, and that even a momentary lapse does not undo the cumulative power of your consistent assumptions. And as the days, weeks, and months pass, the flow of unexpected money becomes a natural part of life, no longer extraordinary but expected, reliable, and effortless, because your inner world has become the source of every outer miracle. You will see that even challenges, delays, or setbacks serve as catalysts for greater alignment, pushing you to refine your assumptions and deepen your mastery over the law of assumption. And the more you trust, persist, and feel, the more abundant your life becomes, until receiving money, opportunities, and support feels as natural as breathing, because you have fully embraced the inner state that produces them. And in this way, you step into the role of a deliberate creator, living in harmony with the universe, where unexpected money is not luck, chance, or coincidence, but the inevitable reflection of the consciousness you choose to maintain. And as you continue to embody this state of assumed wealth, you begin to notice that the flow of unexpected money expands beyond simple financial gains into opportunities, relationships, and experiences that support and enhance your life in ways you never imagined. Because the universe does not recognize limits when your inner state is firmly aligned with abundance. You may find that a casual conversation sparks a new idea that generates income, or that someone unexpectedly offers assistance, a referral, or advice that accelerates your progress. And each of these events reinforces the understanding that your inner state creates the outer reality. And the more consistently you feel the reality of already having money, the less you are influenced by appearances, setbacks, or temporary circumstances, because you know that your assumptions are shaping everything around you, and the universe is faithfully reflecting the state you maintain within. You start noticing subtle signs, coincidences, and synchronicities that confirm the accuracy of your assumptions, and each one encourages you to maintain the feeling, because the law of assumption responds only to what is accepted as real within. And as these manifestations increase, you begin to live in a state of effortless trust, understanding that worrying, doubting, or calculating is unnecessary when your inner state is unwavering, and that all alignment and provision are already assured. You may also realize that the abundance you attract is not limited to money alone, but also to time, freedom, creativity, and opportunities that enrich your life holistically, because the state of assumed wealth radiates into every area of experience. And each new manifestation, whether large or small, reinforces your belief, making the law of assumption a self-confirming process that grows stronger with every act of consistent assumption. You will notice that as this practice becomes habitual, your awareness sharpens, allowing you to recognize opportunities that previously went unnoticed, and you act with confidence because your subconscious now guides you toward aligned decisions effortlessly. And as you maintain this focus, the flow of unexpected money becomes predictable in frequency, though still delightfully surprising in form, showing that the universe's intelligence responds creatively to your inner reality. You learn to celebrate and feel gratitude for each manifestation, no matter how small, because appreciation strengthens the impression on your subconscious and amplifies the abundance you experience. And even when external circumstances appear challenging, you remain centered in the feeling of already having, knowing that the unseen is constantly orchestrating events in alignment with your assumption. You may find that opportunities accelerate, people support you unexpectedly, and ideas for growth appear naturally, all confirming that abundance is the natural outcome of a consistent inner state. And as this process continues, the flow becomes effortless, your confidence unshakable, and your life increasingly aligned with the reality you have chosen, making unexpected money a constant, reliable, and natural part of your existence. And as you persist in this state of assumed wealth, you begin to notice that the most profound transformations are often invisible at first, because the law of assumption works beneath the surface, gradually orchestrating events, shaping circumstances, and attracting opportunities in alignment with the reality you hold within. And only later does the outer world reflect the depth of your inner conviction. You may find that money arrives from unexpected sources, ideas for ventures appear at precisely the right moment, or people approach you with support and guidance that seems miraculous, all of which are direct consequences of the state of abundance you maintain consistently. And the more you embrace this, the less you rely on struggle, effort, or planning, because you understand that the inner state alone dictates the outer result, and the universe responds intelligently to your assumptions without the need for force. You start to see patterns emerging in your life, small coincidences that multiply into large manifestations, each reinforcing your belief that money flows effortlessly to those who assume it already exists. And as this understanding deepens, you may begin to act with greater ease and clarity, making decisions that align with abundance naturally, because your subconscious now directs you toward opportunities that support your desired reality. You realize that fear, doubt, or impatience are simply temporary disturbances, and that by returning consistently to the feeling of already having, you maintain the uninterrupted flow of unexpected money. And as you persist, the universe seems to conspire on your behalf in ways that surpass logic, timing, or planning, revealing that the law of assumption operates with perfect intelligence, bringing results exactly in accordance with your inner state. You may notice that even small gestures, choices, or actions create a ripple effect, opening doors, creating connections, and producing opportunities that would have been invisible to your former state of mind. And each manifestation, whether subtle or grand, strengthens your certainty, making the practice of assumption increasingly effortless, natural, and automatic. You begin to live with an internal assurance that money will always find its way to you, and that unexpected financial blessings are simply a reflection of the reality you consistently embody. And as your alignment continues, the law of assumption extends its influence beyond money, affecting your creativity, relationships, and overall life satisfaction, because abundance in one area naturally spreads to all others. You may even find that the very act of assuming wealth changes your perspective, your behavior, and the way you interact with the world, attracting further alignment and accelerating manifestations. And as this rhythm becomes ingrained, the arrival of unexpected money becomes a habitual and predictable aspect of life, not dependent on effort or struggle, but entirely on the consistent maintenance of your inner state. And in this way, you discover the true freedom of conscious creation, where your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions determine reality, and the flow of wealth and abundance is a natural, continuous, and joyful part of existence. And as you near the mastery of this process, you begin to realize that the key to attracting unexpected money is not the pursuit of evidence or external validation, but the unwavering commitment to living in the feeling of already having. Because the subconscious mind responds only to the reality you accept as true within, and the universe mirrors that reality flawlessly. You may notice that opportunities appear when you least expect them, that financial solutions emerge from sources you never anticipated, and that people, events, and circumstances align in perfect harmony with your inner state, demonstrating the intelligent responsiveness of life to consistent assumption. And the more consistently you feel the reality of abundance, the more effortless your life becomes, because you no longer struggle, chase, or negotiate. Instead, you move in alignment, allowing the natural flow of money to reach you without resistance. You begin to recognize patterns and synchronicities that confirm the law is working, each manifestation, whether large or small, reinforcing the truth that your inner state is the source of all outer results. And as this trust deepens, fear, doubt, and scarcity thinking lose their grip, replaced by confidence, expectation, and a calm certainty that money is always available to you. You may find that financial blessings arrive in forms that surprise you. Unexpected refunds, generous offers, opportunities to monetize skills, or chance encounters that open doors. Yet each one is perfectly consistent with the reality you maintain within. And the more you accept this as normal, the less you cling to effort or struggle, understanding that the universe orchestrates everything in perfect alignment with your assumed state. You begin to see that abundance is a natural condition, and that by living as if it is already yours, you invite continuous, effortless manifestations that confirm your inner certainty. And as you maintain this inner alignment, the outer world increasingly reflects your assumption, creating a life where money flows with ease, joy, and reliability, rather than effort, strain, or uncertainty. You notice that the very act of assuming abundance changes your decisions, interactions, and opportunities, allowing everything to move smoothly toward wealth without conscious manipulation. And with each new manifestation, your confidence strengthens, your expectation rises, and your inner state becomes more unshakable, establishing a pattern where unexpected money is no longer rare, but a natural rhythm of life. You may even observe that these manifestations begin to accelerate, each opportunity reinforcing the next, creating a compounding effect that feels effortless yet undeniably powerful. And as this practice becomes second nature, you find yourself living in a continuous state of receiving, knowing that every thought, feeling, and assumption contributes to a reality overflowing with abundance. And in this way, you step fully into the role of conscious creator, where unexpected money is no longer luck, hope, or chance, but the inevitable outcome of the life you have deliberately chosen and assumed. And now that you have journeyed through the consistent practice of assuming wealth, you begin to fully understand that the arrival of unexpected money is never random, but a direct reflection of the inner reality you choose to inhabit, because the law of assumption does not respond to hope, wishful thinking, or external circumstances. It responds only to the state you accept as true within, and your persistent feeling of already having creates a magnetic force that organizes life around abundance. You may notice that the manifestations become increasingly creative, appearing in ways that defy logic, surpass expectation, and yet always perfectly meet your needs, proving that the universe orchestrates with intelligence beyond human comprehension when guided by unwavering inner conviction. And the more you embrace this state, the more effortless life becomes, because your energy aligns with the flow of abundance, removing struggle, worry, and doubt from the process entirely, and replacing them with confidence, expectancy, and joy. You begin to recognize that money is not something to chase or negotiate for, but a natural outcome of consistently embodying the state of having, and every thought, feeling, and action is now a tool for shaping your reality. And as you continue this practice, the small manifestations compound into larger ones, each confirming the reliability of the law and reinforcing your certainty, until unexpected money becomes not an occasional surprise, but a continuous rhythm of life that you trust completely. You may notice that doors open effortlessly, that ideas, people, and opportunities converge around you naturally, and that your decisions are guided with clarity and precision, all as a result of your inner alignment rather than external manipulation. And the more you persist, the more the universe supports you in ways both visible and subtle, orchestrating events that continually reinforce your assumed reality, until your financial life feels not only abundant, but inevitable in its abundance. You begin to realize that the secret to wealth lies not in effort or external strategy, but in the mastery of your inner state, because the consciousness that you cultivate determines every manifestation that follows. And as you live with this awareness, unexpected money is no longer surprising or uncertain. It is simply the natural expression of a mind firmly aligned with abundance, and life itself becomes a mirror of your inner reality. You will find that this understanding transforms every area of your life, because abundance is not confined to money. It radiates into relationships, creativity, opportunities, and well-being, proving that the state you maintain internally governs every aspect of your experience. And in this final recognition, you step fully into the role of deliberate creator, aware that your imagination, your feelings, and your assumptions are the true architects of reality, and that by consistently feeling, assuming, and expecting, you can command the effortless arrival of unexpected money at will. And now, having mastered the principles of assumption, you no longer see lack, fear, or limitation as real. They are merely remnants of old thinking, easily replaced by the unwavering conviction that abundance is your natural state, and that life itself is designed to provide all that you assume effortlessly, continuously, and joyfully.